Hey, it's Jim Marshall here with the Cottage Country Insider podcast. We're doing something a little different this week. We brought on some buyers that we sold a cottage to 3 years ago. Almost 3 years ago. Would have been 2020.
Yeah.
So Adam and Erin, we started looking for cottages in the springtime of 2020.
Yeah.
What kind of possessed you to buy a cottage at the beginning of a global pandemic?
Oh my God.
A need for hope. I don't know.
Yeah. We've always wanted a cottage. It's been sort of like a dream since we met, I guess. Mm-hmm. So we had time. That was all the sports were shut down. We can get out the house on the weekends, and let's do it. It was we needed hope.
Yeah, and it gave us something because we bought it at the end of the season, so it was around Thanksgiving, wasn't it?
I think we closed on Thanksgiving. Yeah.
So that then having that to look forward to for the winter, like late 2020 and early 2021, was such a gift. So it was weird timing, but wonderful.
Yeah. Well, and you guys weren't kind of the typical COVID buyers, and we had a lot in 2020, 2021 that kind of like, cottage seems like a good idea. Let's go buy one. You guys had, your expectations were realistic when you came about. You weren't buying as an investment. You weren't buying for a lot of the reasons.
No.
I'll tell people.
I feel like our budget wasn't that realistic. We ended up a little higher.
No, but you guys got something completely different in the
Absolutely.
end, and we'll come to
no
that.
Regret.
But tell, did you grow up with cottages?
I did. Mm-hmm. Well,
I mean, my family used to take us to cottages on Bomb Beach, kind of north of, Wasaga Beach. But that was a totally different experience. That was a shack in sandy dirt, and it wasn't kind of the cottage that we ended up with. And then we had friends who had cottages. In high school, we went to Buckhorn. So we had a friend on Buckhorn, so we'd kind of seen that terrain. And then Erin had friends with.
Well, my grandfather built a cottage in the 60s in the Kawarthas. So I grew up going every weekend all summer. Very different terrain than what we ended up with. And then I had a very good friend in high school who had a cottage in Muskoka, and that sold me on the not so much I didn't want it as busy as Muskoka, but the absolute beauty of the rocks and the trees and jumping off the dock into deep water. That was our main thing. So.
Yeah. And with Erin's cottage, I think we learned what we did and didn't want. And I think when we started looking, we were, you draw the big circle. How far are you willing to drive? And we definitely wanted Canadian Shield. We wanted that jump off the dock. We wanted deep water. We wanted to see some rocks. So, that's where
Is there any other reason why you kind of circled it on the Parry Sound area?
Well,
actually, Amy's. I forgot.
So,
Another good friend of ours from university. They have a place way further north on the French River system, I think, and that was really because that has the Canadian Shield, Parry Sound terrain, but quiet and bigger lots, and not so many cottages right in a row like there is in the closer to the city. So we thought we would be, and they're like way north. They're almost in Sudbury, right?
Yeah.
So we thought, okay, we're willing to drive that far, and then we found one place a little closer, which was wonderful. So.
Yeah, but it took a while to find it, because you discovered that inventory levels, especially during COVID, were very limited. So we had offers, I think, on one or two places beforehand.
Yeah.
Do you remember how many offers there were on the first place we bid on? Because I do.
On Osler?
It was on Lorimer Lake.
No.
It had 19. 19.
I can't even remember the place. You remember what road it was on? I remember the Turtle Lake.
That was the last one before.
Osler was it was almost right off the highway. I mean, that was one of the things where we were on the edge on, because you could kind of hear the highway a bit if you listened.
But it was it was
That's a
such a
gorgeous
nice
place.
lot, and it
Yeah.
was a beautiful, beautiful cottage. It was like a split. Remember? Yeah. Anyway, it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we didn't get it by
Yeah.
like $100,000.
Now I remember. Yes. Yeah.
And then we had bid on 3. So we bid on that one. We bid on
Turtle.
Turtle Lake, and then what was the other one? Was Turtle the one with the sand with the
The volleyball court and
there was one on
big sand beach.
Mill or Crane Lake, and then there was one on Mill Lake
Oh,
that we
yeah.
didn't even bid on because we knew it was going to go nuts.
The one on Crane, which I mean, we've kept sort of the old listings and look back and go, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
There is somewhere, we got caught up in it a bit, but the one on Crane, I don't remember it. So it was said 3-bedroom, but one of the bedrooms was a curtain in between, and there was no floor. It was plywood.
Yeah, we had big dreams.
Yeah, that one needed work.
No, I remember that one. And as soon as you said about the 100,000 over the one Oster, because we hadn't seen a lot of that yet until we started seeing it. It's like, oh crap.
That was September. That was September of 2020, I think. Yeah.
And I mean, remember there was people driving up behind us.
Yeah,
We were
tap out.
Yeah, tap in, tap out, ready to go for the next one. So it was a bit crazy.
Yeah.
But we never dreamed that we could get what we ended up with. Like,
right, because
nothing against those places because they're beautiful and we would have been happy had we got those. But what we ended up with was beyond our wildest dreams.
So if you look between, if you're really good with topography, you look between Erin and Adam's heads. You see up on the wall there. There's that's the lake they ended up buying on. So share a little bit why you ended up on Lorimer Lake.
So we were actually, it was almost the end of the season, and we rented a cottage up on Nipissing, on an island. It was a 20-minute boat ride, and again, gorgeous, just rock, quiet. I mean, it was pretty cold, and the water was pretty rough on Nipissing, and we were still looking at listings. We were still kind of flipping through the listings you're sending us, and this one came up, and I mean, you had kind of taught us about a bunch of the lakes as we've gone through, but we never really talked about Lorimer. And I remember we were out on the island, and I think we called you and like, Jim, like, Lorimer Lake, what's this about? And I still remember you said, oh my goodness, that's one of my favorite sort of northern Parry Sound lakes. Gorgeous water, the fishing's great. We should take a look at that one. We always joke because I hummed and hawed because, and we'll probably get into this a bit. It was off grid, and there was one of the pictures had these water towers in it, and I was just like, I don't want to do it. Water towers, seriously, no, thank you. And I mean, Erin was like, no, we have to look at this. We have to look at this.
And then I don't know if you remember this part, but we came to meet you there to look at it, and Adam got it. First of all, we were in love as we were driving down the road to get in, because it was fall, which is when everybody should sell their cottage because it was so stunning. And it was just like this canopy of orange and red and yellow trees. And it was peaceful and quiet and gorgeous. And we drove in and we got to the lot and got out of the car. And I think Adam turned to you and said, I want this one. It was like, and because I don't think you wanted the one we'd been on before. You were just, thank goodness, or we would probably be divorced if we'd gotten that one now, because it wasn't what he wanted, but I thought it had potential. So, but yeah, it was daunting because the off-grid part, and it's a lot more remote. But Adam has actually taken on the off-grid big time. And it turns out our 14-year-old, who I guess was 12 at the time, is quite the fisherman. So having a lake that's got such great fishing has been just made his life amazing. He looks forward to it all winter. So that part.
So the off-grid part was something that we never explored, and I think the reason why, when I remember seeing it coming up, is you guys wanted privacy more than anything.
Absolutely.
It's one of those lakes you get privacy almost by default. But what have you done with the cottage modifications to kind of make the off-grid a little bit easier?
Yeah, and I mean, just a little bit of the
ongoing
privacy,
project.
because we're in our house here in Toronto. We're in a very small semi-detached house that's 16-foot wide lot. We wanted space, and we're on. I don't know if it's more than an acre, a couple acres
Close to
maybe,
2, I
but
think.
650 feet of waterfront. I mean, we have space, and there's space we just don't use, but it gives us buffer, and it's just so peaceful. And we look at nothing. There is nothing in front of us. There is no cottages. It is just land. It's beautiful, pine trees and rock and whatever. The old owners had put in, well, we have to have off-grid. We don't have power. We don't have power line, so you're kind of forced to. They had used it, but I think, they had had the cottage for 30 years, and I think they were, probably a bit pioneers in some of the technology they were using, but it was old. And they had started to rely a lot on the generator to run sort of daily stuff. Like, it was actually wired to have some lights off the generator and some off the solar power. Yeah. So you're kind of flick a switch, and how come that light doesn't turn on? Oh, that's a generator light, right?
And her coffee maker.
Yes.
Her coffee maker, that was really important. So
she
had to
they had a special
to make
plug.
Sure that could always work.
Yeah.
So it was on the generator.
So I mean, we contacted the guy that actually put in some of the work, Terry Bowden, who's a fantastic electrician up in the Parry Sound area. And we just said, listen, what do we need to do? And he said, well, like, what's your goals? I'm like, no, we really want to use the off-grid. We don't want to use the generator. Hate firing up. It's noisy. It's loud. It smells. Whatever. So we basically replaced the entire power shack, all the equipment. So inverter, batteries, chargers, and then we added a pretty significant solar array. So we went from 3 panels to 8. So we have 12 in total. And the problem was they just never got a good charge on the batteries. So they were always, by the end of the day or in the morning, they were out of batteries. So they had to use the generator. So we went from using the generator almost, I don't know, every weekend or so, depending on what we wanted to do. And now I think we fired it up maybe twice last year. And one of those times was at the end of the year to actually charge up the batteries, because you kind of shut everything down and charge them up for the winter. So yeah, we've embraced it, and it's interesting because the electrician is very good. You call him up, he's off grid as well, and a couple times he said, "Oh, you're really into this." Like, yeah, I'm into this, and we're actually at a point now. One of the things we used to have to do is, in order to fill the water towers, because we have water towers for pressure, is we'd have to fire up the generator. You'd run it for 45 minutes. You fill the water tower, and then once water spills at the top, you're done, and you shut the generator down. And kind of the set of steps to do that, it's a couple pages long. We're at a point now where 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the sun's shining, the batteries are charged, we can actually run the pump off the sun, which is so cool. I mean, that was just a game changer.
Well, I remember when we were looking at it, and I said that's really what you want to get to, is where you can run it off. It doesn't draw that much. It doesn't draw as much as the coffee maker. No,
it's actually pretty decent once it gets going. So between that and I think the big thing we did last year, which really took us almost totally to using solar and batteries, is we replaced the hot water, the electric hot water heater, which is a beast, with a tankless. And now it's just, so we've eliminated an entire set of steps. Like, imagine, okay, we need hot water. All right.
It's right there.
Fire up the generator, turn on the tank, wait 40 minutes. Don't forget to turn the breaker off at the end, because you'll drain the batteries. So we just really simplified it, and it's totally possible to do it that way. So I mean, I think it's a thing, it's a conversation piece now. And people are pretty surprised that you can do that.
We are working on simplifying it more, but it's, everything takes longer.
Yeah.
every new idea to make the cottage a little bit better. It's just, you're on cottage time. You got to get out there and enjoy the water and the, water skiing. Adam got water skis and all that. So we have to slow him down, because he gets really into it. Like, you have to actually enjoy it sometimes. So, yeah.
But it's part of the whole experience, what you're doing with that system. And learning it, you've got a really, obviously, a very good contact with the solar that you build with the work.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah, to get this
Unless
stuff
it's
done.
hunting season, and then you can't. He sometimes goes hunting for a couple of weeks, and you can't talk to me at all. But once he's back, he's great.
You have to learn that the first 2 weeks of November are hunting season. You'll try to do anything in hunting
I've
season.
learned. Yeah.
You learn.
Yeah.
Totally.
So what's new for 2023 with the cottage? Have you got any plans as far as any other projects?
Yeah, so we started the guest cottage. We sort of tore apart the kitchen and the bathroom. We've made the bathroom a bit bigger. Ideally, we're going to have a shower in there. It's not on septic, so again, this is other set of challenges. So we have a separating toilet, which we haven't tried it out yet, but for just getting up into the night, it's there. It's basically an outhouse, but you don't have to go hunting outside. And we're just reconfiguring a bit, and then we're going to eliminate that water tower. We're going to go with a pressure tank finally. So that'll be the kind of the first move away from the towers. I'm a bit two-sided on it. So in one case, it works, and then you don't have to rely on something else breaking. But having 100 gallons of water 30 feet above your cottages is just it's a bit worrisome. So we're gonna start there, and as part of that, we're gonna put in a gray water filter system because again, we're not on septic, but we're not
just that cottage.
Just that cottage. So just for like brushing your teeth and things like that, we don't really want to dump the water straight in. So we're gonna put a bit of a gray water system. There's so many companies that sell stuff like this. It's
oh yeah, you have a great contact in Oakville, so closer more to the city, that has an off-grid thing, and he's also been amazing. Like, because we bought a couple propane fridges from him to upgrade some of the other what's the word I'm looking for? Fridges and what? It's just fridges, I guess.
Yeah.
Appliances. That's the word I was looking for. Off of him, and he's been really helpful. And people that are into it are really into it. So they provide tons of information. And the other good thing about the separating toilet is, one day, we haven't yet, but we want to maybe go up in the winter because it's so stunning up there in the winter time. But you need a lot. We're city folks, and we need a lot of training first. So, but one day we could do that because it doesn't rely on running water for the bathroom, which would be cool. So,
what are you doing now because you're off grid? What are you doing for heating again?
So we have a wood stove, which we really only use a bit in May and then maybe in October. And then we have a couple of propane wall heaters that are in kind of small areas to heat just a living room in the guest cottage, and then the sunroom in the main cottage. But otherwise,
the main cottage is insulated.
Yeah.
Thankfully. So when you heat it up with the wood stove, it stays warm. So it's just that we have a sunroom that doesn't like it's super hot in the sun and then it's super cold in the dark. So that is mostly where we need the propane heater, but it's not as we don't use it as much as there are also baseboard heaters, but they were all run off the generator, so we've stopped using those entirely. So
simple things like pulling out all the incandescent light bulbs and replacing them with LEDs, and I mean, just there was a lot of simple stuff you could do so that you could make it work. And it's hard to say I wouldn't call us tree huggers from an off-grid point of view, because we have a massive propane tank and it runs the fridges because we can't rely on, them always running out of electricity. We've got the generator that runs gas. So, I mean, we try our best to use the solar as much as possible. But yeah, there's alternative sources of energy there. So, yeah.
Would you look at some point of maybe putting like I know you've had the generator there, but putting something like a Generac type generator in, which is automatic. So if the batteries get low and it rains for 3 days, then you can get some power.
Yeah, well, actually, when they rewired the place, the generator will now kick in if the batteries get to a poor level. Oh, okay. So it's kind of nice, and we can turn the generator on from the main cottage. We don't have to walk all the way to the back. We just have to walk to the back. So we're pretty wired in there. I guess the advantage there would be if we did a Generac or something, we could probably run it off propane instead of having to carry gas cans. But we need for the boat anyway, so it's not really saving much there.
Yeah. What about looking back, the year that you bought the cottage and the amount of trips up and down the 400 highway? What kind of things would you do different if you could go back and do it again? Which is it's a difficult question, but kind of in retrospect.
I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah,
It was such a great experience.
yeah, there's an exit 153 up the 400. That's where the rock starts to poke out, and to this day we still text each other when we get to 153. Just 153 exclamation mark, and like that's the part where your blood pressure starts dropping.
You shedding the city. To be clear, we seem to consistently drive separately. We bought a giant dog and we have 2 kids, so we don't really have a vehicle. But one of our cars, like you, is well, yours is fully electric. We have a hybrid, plug-in hybrid. So, but yeah, that experience and seeing all those lakes and the very first cottage we saw was one that needed a ton of work. It wasn't far from where we ended up.
Yeah,
it was definitely not in our wheelhouse. It was too rustic, I guess, and so. I just thought it was such a great experience to see all of those places and all of those lakes. And
I mean,
remember the one with the huge stilts?
Oh my God, on Horseshoe. I've got a picture. Yeah,
it was on that tiny.
It was either Horseshoe or Virtue.
Virtue Lake.
Oh, I remember the one. Yeah, the one of Virtue. Yeah. It was like 3 stories of piers in the front. Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, I got a picture of Maggie standing there.
Our daughter.
And she looks like this compared to the stills. It was so crazy.
You could put like a 2-story cottage almost underneath.
Yeah.
So ridiculously high. Yeah.
It was beautiful,
but it was good to get to see all the lakes, though.
I
mean, everybody knows Muskoka and Rosso and whatever, but all these other lakes are
There's so much out there that it's unlimited. Yeah. And so many people told us, your place will come, like it will happen, because I'm sure I think the frustration, we forget the frustrating, like being upset when we lost ones and our bid didn't go, and then, but it's true. It's like you just have to be patient and be sane and not go crazy and be like, I have to have this one, because there are so many lakes and beautiful places, and you'll find the perfect one. If you just put in the time. And we of course adored you.
Well, we work well together.
So much. Our kids still sort of call you Uncle Jim.
Yeah,
Jim we're talking about.
Well, we work really closely with people, and it's not, and it got to some points in 2021 where it's just one shots, because there's so many people looking at cottages and there's so few cottages for sale. We had one place, it was after you guys bought, it was on Otter Lake.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was 27 offers on it. So it got to a point where you didn't know anybody. You'd show them, you do the ID, the DocuSign with the offer. We're getting back kind of to where it was when you guys bought. Still busy, but you get to know people and build those relationships up and all that, which we really enjoy a lot more. I don't, I never, if I want to go work at Walmart, I'll go take my resume over and work like that. That's not what I signed up with this business. What about things for potential buyers out there that are starting to look for cottages? What about any tips that you could pass along?
I guess the first thing that comes to mind for me is don't figure out what it is that is the most important to you, and don't not get that. I'm not saying it right, but we wanted deep weed-free water that you could jump off the dock. We wanted to be able to boat. We wanted privacy, and anything, any other things we were willing to the off-grid, we adapted to that. It happens that Adam is very interested in it, and he's fairly handy, so it worked. But the buildings are what they are. Well, they're not perfect, and we'll work on it over time. The water has been challenging, and things happen, but figure out the 3 or 4 things maybe, or however many it is for you, that are your deal breakers, and don't give
compromise.
Don't compromise. Yes. Don't sell yourself short on what you want. It doesn't mean it's going to be the same things that we wanted, you know, like a beachy waterfront can be a lot of fun, especially if you have little ones, right? Our kids are bigger. They like to jump off the dock and we don't have really a beach, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But
it's not the same as a house. I mean,
yeah.
And, I mean, sorry,
by the inspection
I
report.
listened to a few of your other podcasts, and there was one you had with the person that ran a rental agency, and I remember she was going through things where she was saying, you know, people need to expect certain things. Like if you're where we are, there's bugs. You just have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And you know, you now you kind of learn is like, well, black flies are in May.
Yeah.
Horse flies
Mosquitoes are all the time.
Don't go up the road in July, but August and September, my gosh, they just kind of go away and everything's great. But so I think having the right expectations, especially when you're looking at, you know, places that are more north, it's not turnkey. Like you don't just drive up and do nothing.
Yeah.
And I guess the other thing is the local, like, make use of local people. There is no point talking to anybody in the city about renovations, insurance, anything to do with a cottage. It's not worth it. They don't know what they're not used to it. And you know, you deal with the local folks, get contacts from, I mean, you've provided a bunch of them. The Cottage Association have provided some, and they're
owners.
The old owners are just,
our neighbors.
it's so much easier to work with.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe that's the third one, is like join the local association. The you know, the $30 we pay to Gary, who runs Lorimer Lake Association, we get an email every week. He talks about the lake conditions. In the winter it's about the ice being out, in the summer it's about the roads and when they're going to be, like, I've said to him before, that's worth 3 times as much just for that weekly email. And then beyond that, there's other things that get organized. So I mean, just be part of it. It's a community, and it's fun.
Yeah.
And you have to be a little self-sufficient too, which you've learned with this place. And like if you depend on other people for everything, you're gonna be frustrated.
Yeah, there's no Jiffy on demand,
or you know,
an hour north of Parry.
Or you might be better off with a place that's more like a community, like there's places you can get that are like in a, like more like a condo, right? If that's more your jam, that if you're not, like, you have to be willing to learn new things and be self-sufficient and want a place with privacy.
I think one of the other things with you guys that I remember, it's always the property. That's the most thing, and you alluded to that in the conversation in the last half an hour. Like, you've got a freaking awesome, like a 10 out of 10 property, rock shoreline, south facing, complete privacy, 600 feet of shoreline. Like, you just don't find those all the time. You can work with the buildings; they were fine. You got a great garage too.
Oh man,
Yeah. We can fit our boat in it now. Like Adam, we had a boat trailer and everything. The boat fits in there, so we can even store our own boat, our own selves.
So
it's something that people never think of, and it's something, if they're buying something, one of the first things they build is a garage.
Yeah. So when's the open up date? The end of the month, beginning of May?
12 days.
12 days. You're
from now. We're hoping the 28th of April. We have a countdown on the fridge.
We'll see how far we get. I don't remember if we opened the water last year, but we might.
Last year we went up around this. Oh, my daughter is bringing this over. That's from our fridge.
12 days for the cottage.
So we went up just for the day last year at the end of April, and put up the flag. Adam has a big ceremony where he puts up the Canadian flag at the shoreline, and we just, like, put some sheets on the beds and, got the dust ruffles out and all that good stuff. But this year, I think, because it's been so warm, we're going to try to spend the weekend. And spark up see what surprises are up there.
It's always a surprise. Like last year, our neighbor's dock ended up in front of ours, and they had to kind of tow it back. It's the first year with a new dock, and we think we did it right, but who knows?
We'll see.
Did you put your name on the dock somewhere?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, because I lost a sleep. I lost a swim raft at our cottage back years ago. Halfway through Algonquin Park, driving one of my middle son back to university, and got a call from a neighbor. It's like, nothing I can do about it. I'm around, Lake of Two Rivers, heading to Ottawa. It happens.
Yeah. Like I think the first newsletter from Gary at the beginning of the season was, all right, there's 6 docks.
Who recognizes
Who's are
this
these?
one? This one was here, this one was there. So yeah, but
And they helped
ours is
tow them
pretty
back.
big, so hopefully it didn't go too far, but we'll see.
Yeah, if lost, return to owner. Yeah.
Exactly.
Anyways, it's great. It's great to see you guys again. I am gonna make an effort to get up there again like I did last year and see you at some point. See how things are
We would love
turning out.
that.
And if you ever need anything going forward, as you know, you can always just give me a call. And thank you for sharing a lot of your insight. You guys are a blast, all 4 of you to deal with. And we we don't get a lot of people. We get a lot of great people, but you guys were really special, and it was really fun to work with you guys. So no problem at all.
It was a great experience for us as well with you and your entire office and all the people. And all the people you kind of recommended. So it's great.
Well, I'm going to end the podcast. Stay on for a second. We can chat for a little longer. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Okay. Bye-bye.